In this video, you're going to learn about energy psychology and how to use it to eliminate your stress symptoms. It even heals trauma. Dr. Oz, MD, the one you see on TV, is one of the most respected surgeons in the United States and the director of the Cardiovascular Institute of Complementary Medicine at Columbia University's College of Physicians and Surgeons. He announced in 2007 that the next big frontier in medicine is energy medicine. EFT, which stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and other energy psychology methods like EFT work rapidly and effectively at addressing and healing stress-related ailments. These methods are drawn from ancient healing and Eastern spiritual traditions such as acupuncture and yoga. Before the work of Sigmund Freud, there wasn't a clear idea that emotional suffering could be healed by the thinking brain, that it might take more than just willpower or good intentions to relieve that suffering. But Freud brought this idea to the forefront of his work on the subconscious mind. It took later developments in cognitive neuroscience to understand that the subconscious mind was more than just thought. From the 1950s, behavioral psychologists began demonstrating how appropriate stimuli could affect behavior and that changing behavior could change neural pathways in the brain. By changing neural pathways, thoughts, and emotions, the behavior changed. In the following decades, clinicians began to put together these ideas of the mind-body connection to develop groundbreaking therapies that could heal trauma, including EMDR, which stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing, Advanced Integrative Therapy, AIT, Thought Field Therapy, and EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. These techniques are now proving to heal trauma. Like a miniature battery, every cell in the body stores and emits electricity. According to Joshua Rutenberg's work on early embryonic expression, published in the Journal of Developmental Dynamics in 2002, by the time an embryo is only 4 cells in size, an electrical gradient can be detected that starts switching on specific genes. Every breath you take, every muscle you move, every morsel of food you digest involves electric activity. In the same way, your memories, feelings, and thoughts are encoded in patterns of tiny electrical impulses. This electricity in the body can be manipulated to improve health. The most popular energy psychology methods to date are probably TFT, EFT, and TAT, which is Tappist acupuncture technique. The techniques are used to be shown effective in treating a full range of psychological problems, including fear, trauma, anxiety, grief, depression, loss, self-defeating behavior, peak performance blocks, panic attacks, phobias, and research is bearing all of this out. It has been known that talk therapy alone doesn't heal trauma. For example, when one has experienced verbal abuse trauma, it's much harder to talk oneself out of the logic that when somebody raises their voice, it doesn't mean you're in danger. Cognitive behavioral therapy attempts to address this by learning to reframe illogical thinking and beliefs. But that doesn't always work on trauma either, because the thinking neocortex can understand the logic, but it doesn't necessarily have the same effect on the limbic emotional brain that will believe the same logic. That's where energy psychology methods can be effective. Energy psychology methods often say the reframes out loud while they're tapping on acupuncture points that seem to turn off the amygdala in the limbic system of the brain, which creates that relaxation response. You'll learn to do this in just a bit. TFT, Thought Field Therapy, was developed by American psychologist Dr. Roger Callahan in 1979, who specialized in anxiety disorders. TFT involves having a client tap on specific points on the body that are connected to a specific ailment while repeating a reframe statement about the problem. So for example, if one has stomach pain, one might tap on the stomach point under the eye, as well as other points for that ailment. If one had anger, they would tap on the little finger and the collarbone point. In 2016, TFT was validated by NREPP, the National Repertory of Evidence-Based Practices and Procedures, a division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services in the administration of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. He discovered manual pressure or acupressure or tapping on the acupuncture points could treat physical conditions successfully without the needles. He found that some clients didn't get better because his patients would muscle test positive for a negative statement, such as, "I want to be sick." In other words, part of them wanted to be sick, part of them wanted to be well, but they weren't aware of that desire of wanting to be sick. So Dr. Callahan found that these people suffered from psychological reversal, a form of self-sabotage, and developed procedures to correct this self-sabotaging mindset. Psychologists call this mindset secondary gains because the client gets a gain out of a negative mindset. So for example, inside they say, if I heal and get better, then I won't get the love and sympathy I've enjoyed with having this ailment. So they get a pro out of it. Many people have these negative thoughts and beliefs that block their success, yet they can be cleared through these techniques. So Dr. Callahan believes that the exact order of points creates an individual code for each client. Well, EFT then came along a decade later, developed by Gary Craig, who simplified TFT by having one tap on all 14 points, regardless of what ailment you were working on. So instead of anger being 1 or 2 or 3 points, he said just tap on all 14 for the anger. The client will mentally think about a disturbing scene, emotion, sensation, or statement related to a target issue, and then tap on a prescribed set of points, which we'll go over in just a bit. It could be a self-defeating belief like a negative emotion, a pain in the body, and so on. Before and after the tapping, the client rates the emotional upset about the problem on a SUD scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the worst. The person then taps on the acupoints of the body for a few rounds. Based on a quick assessment of the effect of the tapping, another round of tapping is done with the therapist, guiding the client to keep the same focus or move to a new focus. This new focus may highlight any numerous aspects of a problem. So often additional rounds of tapping that take about 1 to 2 minutes occur until the distress is no longer present. I've practiced these techniques on students and others for the past 14 years, and it works like nothing else I've seen. But what does the research say about energy psychology methods? What ailments and research has it helped? Well, as of July 2019, over 100 research studies, 5 meta-analyses, and 12 review articles have been published on energy psychology methods in peer-reviewed journals. More than 200 investigators in over 12 countries have researched these modalities. Over 50 randomized controlled trials, the most reliable research, have documented efficacy produced a desired effect for these methods. The methods these studies have been published in more than 15 different peer-reviewed journals. All the results have. And in 2011, the American Psychological Association granted acupoint therapy continuing education credit to sponsorship status and to associations who teach it so therapists could be trained in it. In 2017, the U.S. Veterans Administration added EFT to List 2, approving it as a generally safe therapy. A review of clinical trials of acupoint tapping protocols involved more than 1,000 subjects and found that no adverse events or side effects had ever been reported. A survey of therapists using energy psychologists in treating survivors of childhood sexual abuse reported that the respondents preferred energy psychology methods because it is able to relieve the trauma in a non-invasive manner that lessens the possibility of re-traumatization. In other words, they don't have to experience the awful memory. Of the 116 outcome studies that were published in peer-reviewed journals, 51 were high-level randomized controlled trial studies examining the use of the method with a wide range of conditions, including anxiety, PTSD, specific phobias, depression, weight issues, sleep disorders, physical pain, fibromyalgia, and athletic performance. Significant improvements were reported post-treatment in all 116 clinical trials except for one. The PTSD experiences range from sexual abuse, physical abuse, natural disasters, accidents, neglect, domestic violence, and many other types of awful PTSD. Of the 14 meta-analyses conducted on energy psychology treatments of anxiety, PTSD, and depression, an impressive combined pre to post-treatment effect size of 1.23 occurred for anxiety, 2.96 for PTSD, and 1.85 for depression. That was found when 0.8 is considered a large effect. So with rigorous research standards, energy psychology methods pertaining to trauma and stress conditions have been a big success. David Feinstein in 2012 looked at a review of all the energy psychology literature in 51 peer-reviewed papers and found strong statistical results favoring energy psychology methods for PTSD, depression, anxiety, and other ailments. In a large study, 145 traumatized adult survivors of the Rwanda genocide that happened a few decades ago were randomly assigned to a single-session TFT group or waitlist control. Pre- and post-treatment scores on two standardized PTSD self-inventories showed improvements that were significant beyond the 0.001 level of all scales, such as anxious arousal, depression, irritability, intrusive experiences, defensive avoidance, disassociation, and improvements held on, and get this, not for 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 months, a 2-year follow-up. Participants in 2 other studies also showed significant relief of PTSD symptoms after a single tapping session. That's occurred to me several times when I work with others. The first major study of energy psychology in the treatment of veterans with PTSD had a low dropout rate and found that only 14% still had the disorder after 6 one-hour tapping sessions, a study that has been replicated with similar findings. The research shows when energy psychology methods are performed, reductions in cortisol, the stress hormone, occurs, normalization of brainwave patterns occur, shifts in blood flow within the brain, and changes in gene expression have been documented in these studies. You can go to energypsych.org to check out the hundreds of studies. Now you'll learn how to perform EFT, and you'll see that your stress symptoms will start disappearing after a few minutes, I predict. Now you'll see a live demonstration of how to perform EFT. We have Kaylee here to help me demonstrate how EFT works. Welcome, Kaylee.
Hi.
I remember when we worked together last year, we were working on getting you out of an abusive relationship. Yeah, would you call it abusive?
Yeah.
Yeah. You were in it for a few years?
Yeah, almost 5.
And did you try anything else before you saw me and to leave, or?
I tried talk therapy.
Yeah.
I tried talking to family and friends, but logic and willpower, it wasn't getting me anywhere.
So you're staying in the relationship.
Yeah, the same cycle.
And I remember the first time we worked, we didn't have a lot of time, and I think we worked on the fear of being alone. But a part of me wanted to say, oh yes, you need to leave this relationship and talk logic that way, but I knew there's things that keep emotional reasons why she wanted to stay, and we had to uproot those in order to make that happen. And one of the things I remember we worked on was that fear of being alone. And we tapped on that, and then you left, and then you came back, and other things came up.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote down the fear of change,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the fear of retaliation.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about that and ways that you can protect yourself. And then we talked about the fear of being unlovable and unworthy.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with you on, I asked you some positive qualities
Mm-hmm.
about yourself.
Yeah.
And what do you remember saying?
That I'm kind,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm caring,
Mm-hmm.
compassionate,
Yeah.
and loving.
Mm-hmm. Positive, I think
Yeah,
that was another
positive
one.
was another one, yeah.
And so I was trying to get you to see you have all these other qualities, give you that sense of deserving,
Mm-hmm.
that you're not unlovable even if you leave this.
Mm-hmm.
So what I thought we would do is kind of reenact what we tapped on.
Okay.
Okay, so the first step when you tap on anything in EFT, whether it's a physical pain, emotional pain, whatever it is, you want to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. So when we first worked on feeling unlovable, what was it on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being the worst, it was
Yeah,
a 10.
10.
Okay. So we tapped on that. And so let's do that and kind of reenact that. So we tap here and we use the basic recipe. So step 1 is creating a statement. So we created a statement, and the first thing you want to say in your statement is, even though I have this, and you just state the issue. So your issue was, even though I have this issue that I feel unworthy. And a one-word feeling word, what was that? That feeling, I mean, unworthy is kind of like a, what was a feeling word? Was it sad? Just
Sad, lonely.
Mhm.
I feel like unworthy is just, I want to say that's what we tapped on.
Yeah.
I mean, it spoke so much volume.
Yeah.
And I feel like even then it went in with the fear of change too.
Mhm.
Because although leaving that relationship would have been a positive change, it was still like, was I worthy of that positive change?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I felt like unworthy would speak the most volume.
Okay. So we came up with, so we could say, I feel, even though I have this feeling of unworthiness, which makes me feel sad and lonely,
Mm-hmm.
which reminds me of,
Mm-hmm.
and do you remember what that reminded of you in the past? Did you ever get that message growing up, or?
Definitely. I mean, my
From
dad was an
somebody?
alcoholic,
Okay.
and so I think I've had a few experiences with him.
So we might have
Yeah.
connected it with that. So she would then say, which reminds me of some experiences with Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing you want to do in the fill in the blank is I allow myself to, and state whatever you want. I allow myself to let this go.
Mm-hmm.
I allow myself to believe that I am worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the word because, you're going to go ahead and fill in that space. And we're going to give you a good reason. So what's a good reason? Well, all those positive qualities
Mm-hmm.
that we mentioned. Because I'm positive, I'm caring, I'm a good person, I deserve,
Mm-hmm.
love from a
Yeah.
healthy person.
Yeah, definitely.
So once we fill in the blank, we then start the tapping. So we look at the basic recipe, which is step 1. And even though I have this, so we'll go ahead and start it. So we tap here on the karate chop point. And so even though I have this feeling
I have this feeling
that I'm unworthy
that I'm unworthy
if I leave this relationship,
if I leave this relationship,
which makes me feel sad and lonely.
which makes me feel sad and lonely.
It reminds me of
It reminds me of
experiences with Dad.
experiences with Dad.
I allow myself
I allow myself
to leave the relationship anyway
to leave the relationship anyway
because I deserve better.
because I deserve better.
I'm kind.
I'm kind.
I'm compassionate.
I'm compassionate.
I'm funny.
I'm funny.
I'm light.
I'm light.
I'm caring.
I'm caring.
I'm a positive person.
I'm a positive person.
And I deserve to be with somebody
And I deserve to be with somebody
who values
who values
and loves me in a healthy way.
and loves me in a healthy way.
And then you end it with, and I deeply and completely
And I deeply and completely
love and accept myself.
love and accept myself.
So we would say that 3 times. So you can repeat the same thing 3 times or do a variation of it. You could put in a couple other emotions or something like that, or that fear of change. So step 2 is you're going to come up with a reminder phrase, and then the step 2 is called the sequence, and so you're going to say the reminder phrase as you tap on each energy point about 10 to 20 times. So the reminder phrase is just the first part of that, which is fear of leaving this abusive relationship.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and tap on that. So we tap on the eyebrow point, fear of losing this relationship.
Fear of losing this relationship.
Fear of leaving this relationship.
Fear of leaving this relationship.
Feeling unworthy.
Feeling unworthy.
If I leave this relationship.
If I leave this relationship.
I'll feel unworthy if I leave this relationship.
I'll feel unworthy if I leave this relationship.
It feels safer to be in this relationship.
I feel safer to be in this
So
relationship.
you state the negative. Fear of leaving the relationship.
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 Fear of feeling unworthy.
Fear of feeling unworthy.
Okay, take a deep breath. So we tap on the eyebrow point, which is the urinary bladder, gallbladder point, the stomach, the governing vessel meridian, the central vessel meridian, the spleen, the kidney, the lung, the large intestine, the pericardium, the heart, the small intestine, and the thyroid. So we're tapping on all those points. That's the second thing. That was the second step. And the third step is just it takes about 10 seconds. A lot of people skip this, but I think it's important to do because about 5 to 10% of the people get a benefit. So you're going to just tap on the gamut point, which is on the back of the hand in between the pinky and ring finger bone. That's the thyroid point. And you're going to continuously tap that and do these 9 actions. You're going to close your eyes and then open them and look down to the right over here, and then down to the left, and then around with your eyes, and then back around. And then hum. It could be like happy birthday. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the left brain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And hum again. So we're just getting the left and the right brain to process, and then we're done. And then step 4, last step, is just to perform step 2 again. So we're going to tap here and say fear of leaving this relationship.
Fear of leaving this relationship.
I'll feel unworthy if I leave the relationship.
I'll feel unworthy if I leave this relationship.
I don't want to feel unworthy.
I don't want to feel unworthy.
Maybe I can leave this relationship.
Maybe I can leave this relationship.
I now own that I'm positive.
I now own that I'm positive.
And I love that I'm funny
And I love that I'm funny
and caring.
and caring.
Anything else you want to mention? I love that I'm a good person.
I love that I'm a good person.
Maybe I can leave the relationship.
Maybe I can leave the relationship.
Maybe I can be okay on my own if I
Maybe I
leave the
can
relationship.
be okay on my own if I leave the relationship.
I love who I am.
I love who I am.
I wouldn't change it.
I wouldn't change it.
Okay, take a deep breath. And do you remember what happened after we had a few more sessions? What happened in your life?
I just noticed that on a day-to-day, I mean, even before I officially decided to get myself out of a relationship, anytime I noticed the negative thoughts or the thoughts that were provoking a lot of the fear-based feelings of leaving, I could almost bring myself into like this moment of tapping and how you feel when you do start to tap. And it would just completely just relieve any type of anxiety that I had been feeling with
great.
those thoughts. Yeah.
I remember you first, I can't remember if you came in for a counseling session first or you took the class, Counseling 148.
I took the class first.
And was the class helpful for you?
The class changed my life. The class woke me up.
It woke you up?
Yeah, it woke me up. Yeah, this class was where I learned about the subconscious mind and how powerful it is and how people don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So you learned about going to the source or getting to the root of things?
Definitely, because I found that me being in an abusive relationship was just a symptom of a deep feeling of unworthiness.
Ah. And so that's what we worked on.
Yeah.
So if you're doing this in subsequent rounds, after you complete steps 1 through 4, you want to use the word remaining. So what we did afterwards is we would say, even though I have this remaining feeling of being unworthy if I leave the relationship. And then you would say the same thing in round 2. One round is doing all 4 steps. So round 2, you just put that word remaining, and then in the reminder phrase, you're just going to say this remaining fear of leaving, this remaining fear of being unworthy. And just do that. This will address any causes not mentioned just by using the word remaining. If it's not down to a 0, do another round and tap on anything new that came up, any new issue that came up from the tapping. When you tap, the subconscious mind will release things and you'll get new ideas about the problem. And that's how we got all these other things that came up, like fear of retaliation, fear of change, and so forth. So then you're going to put that new thought into the next affirmation statement, and you'll then tap on that and do another round on it until everything clears out around that issue. So that's how you do that. Anything else you want to mention?
I'm out of the abusive relationship, so I
Yay!
have to say it says something.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, right? Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was great having you, and thank you for helping to demonstrate. In the next video, you'll learn the best way to meditate, do pranayama breathing, and perform an emotional release technique that I've used on myself and others to eliminate many traumas and let go of people that make me angry, fearful, and hurt, as well as many other emotions, and it just takes a couple of minutes. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.